We have the chance that at the moment the digital tools are really evolving quite quickly. Think about AI, think about BIM, think about 3D recordings, and those are tools that we really need to do our retrofittings. We need to know the actual status of the buildings, and those digital tools help us with that. We can now really easily record the complete setup of a building, the real setup of a building, in a few minutes. We can use drones, we can use laser cameras, etc., and make a 3D model, a digital model which can help us to create afterwards the industrialized retrofittings. The advantage now is that we can combine both. So tools provide us with the actual status and with the building itself, the layout, the dimensions of the buildings. And based on that model, we can then make decisions on the retrofitting, how we will do the retrofitting. We can use industrialized techniques. We're talking about prefab retrofittings, large-scale panels that make a complete facade or a complete roof, for example. But if you make those, well, you cannot adjust them on site. So you need to produce them, they come on site, and there you need to assemble them. And for that, because you cannot adjust, you need a good 3D recording of the building that is really very precise. And that's the lucky thing we have now at this moment, is that both techniques come together. The fact that we have now these digital tools that are really powerful on the one hand, and on the other hand we have all the assets to make prefab retrofittings, well, they allow us to shift from making every building a prototype. Often when we do retrofittings, every building you need to do new details and look at it in a new way. So basically it's a new prototype every time again. But now that we have a digital model and we produce the panels up front in a factory, it means that we can shift towards a well-conceived retrofitting where every detail, every difficult aspect is tackled up front before we execute it on site. And this means that we can improve the quality of the retrofitting, improve the speed of the retrofitting, and lower the hindrance for all the other people around the building or inside the building, because you limit the time of retrofitting. And so we shift really from a prototype on site towards a digital prototype, which allows us to tackle all these issues. Next to the thinking about prefab, thinking about digital tools and combining those, I think that also our processes really need to be changed. We need to change the way how we organize a retrofitting. All the different people that are working, they should know exactly when they need to do their job, at what time, and when they need to be finished, because there is another one that comes afterwards. And so organizing this in a much more efficient and better way would already be an increase, a huge increase in efficiency of our retrofittings. The future potential of these techniques in Belgium and in Europe are really huge. Industrialization won't be the solution for everything, but for a big part of our building park it would be a solution. For example, if you look at the fashion industry, you have on the one hand still the traditional people that are knitting and these kind of things, and you still need those. On the other hand, you have really the high level, high society fashion industry, the big companies, which are doing really special things. They are also having a niche. But in between you have, I don't know, 60–70% of clothing that is industrialized, that is produced in an industrial way. And you could have the same with the buildings. You have on the one hand the more traditional things, for example heritage buildings, etc., where you need solutions really made for that one specific building. On the other hand, you have the high architecture, which is also kind of special, but everything in between, and then we're talking about 60–70% of our building stock, we could tackle with industrialized solutions. And we need to go towards those industrialized solutions, because otherwise we never will get to the target of retrofitting that we need to achieve in the next few years. There are several barriers that prevent those solutions from entering the market in a quick and good way. They are on regional level, they are on national level, they are on European level, and we need to tackle these all these levels to assure that we will reach our renovation rate that we have set as a target. Think about, for example, the tenders. We're often looking at these techniques to be used in social housing retrofittings, because there you have often the same house that is repeated, and so you could tackle a large part of the building stock when tackling social housing companies. But the tenders are not adapted to that. So, for example, they are really focusing on traditional methods and techniques and describing those in details, but we would need to shift towards a performance-based retrofitting scenario. So not on what to put in the buildings, but what to achieve with these buildings, what performance, what energy performance we want to achieve. The tenders need to be adapted so that they focus more on the real building performance and less on which materials to use. On the other side, I think that we need to look further than only energy performance. And then we're talking about CO2 emissions, about total cost of ownership, etc. And that's something that is not quite common yet in the building industry. It starts and people are talking about it, but in the end, when they are executing, they are not looking at that. But you need to be aware that every new material that we put into a building, so also into retrofittings, it needs to be produced, it needs to be transported, and all of that has a CO2 emission cost. And so we need to look at that also, not only at the energy bill. To do that, yeah, I think we still need some shift in our minds and look also further than energy aspects. Now, this thing should be tackled on a European level, in fact, because we can do it in a region, in Flanders, in Brussels, in Wallonia, or on a Belgium level. But in fact, if we really want those techniques to lift off, to get into the building industry, we will need to work together on a European level. We have quite some big players in Belgium that are dealing with industrialized retrofitting, but we see that our laws in Belgium they stop them a little bit, and so they go to other countries. They are working in the Netherlands or in Germany, because it's a little bit easier for them there, because the techniques are already known there. But in fact, we have the knowledge. We just need to adapt how we look at retrofittings at the moment. And one important thing to keep in mind there is that all the retrofittings we're doing today are in fact the retrofittings. We prepare the retrofittings for over 50 years now. And so everything we do now, we need to conceive it in a modular way. We need to conceive it in a circular way, in a way that if in 50 years we need to change things, we can easily adapt it. Take out some parts of the new facade or of the new roofs and replace it. And so we need to shift in our thinking towards building blocks. How can we create building blocks? Think about Lego. We need to Legolize our buildings. We need to, you can make millions of combinations with Lego, and that's what we need to do also here. Not every brick is, we don't need to do it brick by brick, but by building blocks. For example, a facade with some panels in it, active panels or passive panels, or complete energy modules that we bring on site and they are just plug and play. So that if there's something wrong, we can take it out, we can replace it by another module, and we can repair the old module. So that's a kind of a shift that we need to take into our retrofitting thinking for tomorrow, I think. you need to make a difference between real heritage, historic buildings, and then the building stock that we got, the rest. I think it's clear that industrialization is usable for the main building stock that we have. That there is no question about that. The historic buildings, I think also that it is possible. Heritage is something else. There I don't really think about that it has a big place. It's a small part, heritage. So it won't solve our climate challenge. So it's not on that part that we need to focus. But historic buildings, a little bit in between the two, there it can help. And we had several projects where we already showcased that. We had projects that had some historic value but weren't listed, and where we combine, in fact, traditional techniques with industrial techniques. So I think we need to have a hybrid approach for those cases. For example, it could be that the front facade and the street are have a kind of a heritage value, so there you want to keep it. But on the back side of the building, it could be that there is no value at all, and so you can come there with new facades that integrate all techniques, so ventilation and water supply, etc. But even with 3D modules, so extensions of buildings to make the building much more adapted to our comfort of today. And I think such a hybrid approach really is a good solution. And it's nice to see that even in Belgium we have some examples on that that showcase the potential of these things. So for me, industrialization, it's not always completely industrialized, but you need to use it there where it makes sense, and you need to use the traditional knowledge and materials and techniques for the other parts. And the combination of both will allow us to speed up also the retrofitting of historic buildings.